Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable Podcast. We are here recording episode 138, and today this episode is for all of you who are maybe lacking some inspiration or motivation in your language learning journey or just in life in general. And we're going to discuss some tips and tricks and some ways to kind of get yourself out of that, little low spot where you're thinking, it's so much work to get done what I need to do, and I don't have the motivation right now. Listen to this. We're going to get you motivated. We're going to get you pumped up and ready to go. So I hope you're ready, and I hope my co-host is ready. So without further ado, my buddy Jared. What's going on, Jared?
Chad, you are literally talking about me right now. I was so gung-ho to learn Spanish a mere 5 months ago. In podcast time, I have no track of what year. It could be 2030. I don't know. This feels like some sort of something that people do in sanitariums because they have no one else to talk to. I was so committed to learning Spanish, and I first started with the lessons. My girlfriend is close to fluent. I'm not going to say she's perfectly fluent, but she's close enough where she could actually teach me, most of the fundamentals. You told me that's not a great way to learn. I was following this kind of boring textbook thing online. I started watching a TV show, Falsa Identidad. It got weird real fast, a little too weird for me. I wasn't into the child selling. I wasn't into I don't know. It just turned too weird. And after that, I stopped watching that show. That was it. And this is episodes for me, and it's for everyone else. But first, please, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how passionate I'd be about giving up on Spanish. Spread a little love. Spread a little love to me. I could do it. Also, follow us on Untranslatable Podcast, on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. Our Twitter is Untranslatable1, the number 1. I'll tell you this, dude. Listen, our social media is always popping and stuff. It's great. It's exhausting. No one should live like this, but I do it for the people. And all I ask is that spread a little love with 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher because, it's great. What we do here is great. The people need it. We hear from you. And we appreciate it. Hey, buddy, how's China been? I feel like I need my updates every now and again.
China has been, absolutely. Well, China has been fantastic. First of all, this weekend, I'll be going to Xi'an, which is one of the best tourist locations in China. They have these really famous couple different foods. They have what's called I don't know the Chinese word for it, but if you Google Chinese hamburger, go ahead and humor me, just Google it right now. They have like a special kind of hamburger here. It looks really delicious, looks super scrumptious, and so I'm definitely going to try that while I'm in Xi'an. Chinese hamburger is one of them. And then another delicacy there, they have like a lamb soup with pita bread also in the soup.
A Chinese hamburger almost looks like a bun. Like one of those buns you might get from I don't know where. You know what I'm talking about?
I think you're talking about the buns you're talking about. I think they're Korean, maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, no. I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think. I think you're right. But what I'm saying is they look like that just fried. Like the bread mm-hmm. of it is fried and not whatever they do to the pork buns to heat them. Steam them, I would assume.
They steam them? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But yeah, so I'm going to Xi'an over the weekend for a conference. So keep your eyes out to our listeners for maybe an On the Road Again Xi'an edition.
Are you going to be
on the road again?
Yes. Are you going to be? I crack myself up. Are you going to be presenting at this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This time I'm changing it up though, Jared.
Oh, I love.
I'm not doing music and language learning. Now I'm doing games and language learning. So I've got 6 games that I'm going to demonstrate. I'll give you and our listeners a quick rundown, so a little teaser for next episode because I'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. But the first game that we'll probably play is called Find Someone Who, and this is where did you ever do this in your language classes, Jared?
Doesn't sound familiar.
I'll explain it a little bit. So find someone who is when the teacher either gives the students a handout, or I usually just do a PowerPoint slide, because trying to save the environment here, people, and not for, I have over 150 students, so that is a lot of paper to print out.
Yeah.
Even if I did 2 of them on one sheet, that's still like over 70 sheets of paper. So that's a lot. Anyways, so what you do is you give them questions. Like find someone who, I actually did this last night in my conversation hour, which we'll also get to in a moment. But I had questions like, find someone who can paint or draw. Find someone who, I was really curious, find someone who can eat over 20 dumplings. Find someone who has a cute picture of a dog or a cat, right? Oh, yeah.
This is a game? Where are you finding these people? Are these people in the class?
In the classroom, yeah. You have to walk around and interview them. And you make it a game because you give them a time limit. And the first person to find all 6 people or 10 people or whatever is technically the winner. So that's one of them.
Okay.
And that one's a lot of fun because the students get to mingle around and have a good time. There's a lot of laughing and giggling and smiling. So that makes me happy as the teacher, seeing that. Another game we're going to play is Who Am I? Which is kind of that. Like,
are these with students, or are you who are you presenting this to?
I'm presenting to university teachers that will hopefully use these in their lessons.
Is it rude to say that this sounds a little patronizing? But I mean, you're teaching them how to play games, I guess. But when I hear this, it sounds like, wait, you're treating these people like they're 6-year-olds. Well,
that's just I don't know. I don't think it's patronizing, but
I understand. No. I get what you're saying, though.
And in the presentation, I talk a lot about like how long the games will take. You know, what language levels will you use them for? So, I'm leaving that out.
How far away is the city, by the way?
Xi'an. It will be my longest train ride yet in China. It'll be. It's weird. On the way there, it'll be 5.5 hours. On the way back, it'll be about 6 hours.
And this is all high-speed train?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry. I don't.
And so the interesting thing is that the tickets were booking up pretty quick. They were being booked pretty quick. So on the way there, I'll be traveling first class, which is nice because you get like a little snack and a free complimentary bottle of water. And usually the first class seats have like outlets in them, so you can charge your phone or your laptop or whatever. But all the first class seats were sold out on the way back. So on the way back, I'll be traveling second class like a peasant.
It's a tough
life.
Kidding. I'm sorry you have to live like this, Chad.
But the thing is, I have to make sure on the way back I have my laptop fully charged before I get on the train, and my phone as well, because there won't be any outlets for me to plug into. So yeah.
Yeah, I also keep forgetting how paramount, that's the word I'm going to use, it is that you make sure you have full signal at all times. Like full signal and full battery at all times.
Full battery.
Yeah, I guess that's more than full signal.
Right. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I also will see a couple of my other English fellow friends, my fellow fellows, as we say.
I like that. Can I ask you this, though? I'm excited for this trip. Maybe we'll do an on the road again. Who knows? Maybe we can get
on the road
Willie
again.
to wake up, get into his fancy bus. But how has it been? Have the classrooms been loosening up? You know, like I feel like that's a sort of a goal for you, is to loosen up the classrooms. Have you been noticing that happening?
So that's a really great question, Jared. I will say this. They definitely have become much more talkative amongst each other. I think they've gotten more used to and accustomed to my discussion style teaching. Because in the beginning, when I would have them discuss, it would be like dead silence for like 20, 30 seconds. And then one person would start talking, and then people are like, oh, okay, it's okay if I start talking too. Right. Now, when I say discuss, they start discussing. But what I have done is I don't ask for volunteers anymore. I just call on students. And what I've been doing This is a technique that I learned from one of my fellows, my buddy Damien. Is he taught me that what you do is you ask the student a question. So you say, "Give me a color," and if they say blue, I look around and I find a student who's wearing something blue, or I say, like right, Jared's wearing blue, so I would call on Jared, right? Jared, what is the cognitive theory of language learning?
Oh shit!
But yeah, Jared didn't read his textbook. People, he's a bad student. But yeah, so that's one way. Like a lot of it's based on just like appearances, right? So I'd be like, all right, like long hair or short hair. Glasses are. I love the glasses, no glasses, because usually they'll say no glasses, and I only have like 2 students that don't have glasses. So it's like, all right, well, you know you're getting called on. So I've been doing that, and what I've also been doing is I'll call on one student to answer. Like if I do discussion questions, I have like 3 or 4 of them. I'll say, all right, I'll call on one student and they'll answer, and I'll be like, all right, pick a student, and then they have to look around and find somebody. So that has definitely made the participation a lot better.
I hate you for that.
So
that sounds like my worst nightmare.
Right. Well, it's a good thing I'm not your language teacher. Oh my gosh!
Jared, I get. See, it's weird. I both hate you and understand your struggle, because the reason why this pains me so bad is when I think onto those times in those classes I had in high school. I remember this one, like humanities class I had in Germany in like 9th grade, and it was about like a Homo sapiens and all that stuff. And no one knew anything in that class. And the teacher would do that stuff, and I would hate it, because I'd be like, oh, God, I know I'm going to get called on eventually, and I know that there's a 48% chance that I might know the answer.
Right. And then you might have to call on somebody else and be that jerk
and
to
I'm
call on
get
somebody
beat
else.
up, in the parking lot after. There's a lot of variables going on here.
But see, the funny thing is that I'm really confident, like 85%, maybe even I'll go out on a limb and say 90% of the time, my students know the answer. It's just in Chinese culture, it's very, I don't know if impolite or inappropriate is the correct term, but humility is really important in Chinese culture. That's a good one.
Like
exactly.
It's very
uncouth.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to brag and show off. But, I tell my students, how else am I going to know you understand the material unless you were able to explain things and identify things and report back to me.
Especially since they're being educated to do a job where you have to explain things to people,
Exactly.
Or it's like, I need to know that you can explain this to people.
Right. But also, though, in all of my classes, I think my largest class out of 46 students, 12 of them want to become teachers. So, because these are just English majors.
Yeah.
So I think other of them might want to do business.
In college, I concentrated in finance, and I quickly ran as far away from that as possible. So I get it.
That's pretty normal, though. I mean, a lot of, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a very low percentage of people that actually do a degree related to, do have a job in a field related to their degree. And mine is only loosely related, right? I mean, I wish I was still teaching German. I miss it dearly. But, and I wish I was doing more with music. I mean, I guess I am when I try to incorporate music in my teaching when I can, but I'm not actually playing music as much as I would like. Right. So I also made a career shift as well. And eventually we're just going to be professional podcasters. So keep your eyes out for that.
That'll
people,
be quite the career shift.
Right. No kidding.
I'll enjoy explaining
but anyways,
Thanksgiving.
A couple other things about China though, real quick, Jared, and then we'll spread some love. I went to, there's like a little burger joint near my apartment. So I went there last night because I was really hungry, and my Wednesdays go kind of long because I also do a conversation hour. And so I went to the burger place and I sit down, and there are 3 workers that I see there regularly. So they kind of, I'm the only Westerner, I'm the only foreigner that I know of around this part of town. So they know who I am. And so I go in, and they're actually having dinner together. and they invited me to join them. And the food smelled good, looked really good, but it was fish. And I am not a fish guy. And most of the fish here in China, Jared, still has the bones in it. So you got to like pick out the bones as you're eating it. And anyway, so I felt really bad turning down their invitation to eat with them. Also, I didn't want to embarrass myself. I'm still not great with chopsticks. I didn't want to drop their food all over their table. And I was really just wanted a burger. So I had a burger, but we were talking, and I befriended, I'm pretty sure he's either the manager, maybe even the owner of the store, and befriended him. We exchanged WeChat info, and one of these days we're going to hang out. But what was really great and really touching is he said, well, if I don't see you until November, and I told him, trust me, man, you'll see me. Like, I like your restaurant. Like, I'll be back. You'll see me. But he said, if I don't see you until November, he said, I would be happy to cook a Thanksgiving meal for you here. So I might be having a turkey.
For just you?
I would assume that his friends that were there would also be there. But yeah.
Huh. Please tell me you're going to do this.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's a super nice guy. They're all really friendly. But it was also kind of funny. I think he asked me where I'm from, and I said, Michigan. And the other one's like, oh, Michigan. And he said, where in Mexico is that? And I said, no, not Mexico. Michigan in the United States. He was like, oh, and then I like showed him a picture where it was and stuff. But super nice guy. His English name is Brian. Super friendly, super nice. Also, he brews his own beer and let me try some of his own brewed beer, and that was really, really good as well. So,
wow, seems like a bold move, isn't it?
What?
Drinking someone's home brewed beer.
I mean, well, it's in like a bottle that's been like it looked legit, you know.
Okay.
So, and I haven't died yet. So,
okay.
If we don't record a On the Road Again Xi'an edition, it's because I died from homemade beer. But I mean, homemade beer generally is I would think most homemade alcohols are fairly safe to drink because the alcohol kills the bacteria, right?
I tried to make homemade beer one time, and it turned out great, except there was no carbonation. Like it was flat.
So you had more
beer.
of a homemade wine, like okay, like a weird beer wine or something. Okay,
I guess. So I didn't drink any of it.
Interesting.
Anyway,
interesting.
All right, spread a little love.
All right, let's do that. We can save the student questions for next time because I have some good student. Okay, I'll bring those next time. I figured you did
because I'm sure that'll spark some. Yeah, we'll save them.
We'll save them for next time. All right, let's spread some love. So my first shout out. Well, first of all, do you have any shout outs, Jared?
I do, Chad, but please go first. Please.
All right, I will. So my first one goes out to the United Kingdom, our brothers and sisters in the UK, who
Brilliant.
Research shows that renewable energy sources has provided more electricity to UK homes and businesses than fossil fuels for the first time over the last quarter, according to new research. The renewables record was set in the third quarter of this year after its share of the electricity mix rose to 40%. It is the first time that electricity from British wind farms, solar panels, and renewable biomass plants has surpassed fossil fuels since the UK's first power plant fired up in 1882. So I think this is really amazing. We need to give lots of love to all of our brothers and sisters in the UK.
You betcha.
For looking for cleaner energy sources, and the fact that it has already surpassed fossil fuel consumption already shows us that this is very doable, and I hope that other countries and other places will follow in suit as well.
I agree, Chad. Thank you. I have an untranslatable like I always do. And mine, have you heard of a retired football player named Warrick Dunn? Warrick Dunn. That's a tough name to say.
I have not, no.
Well, he used to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he has donated through his nonprofit fund that he has his 173rd home to a family. His
wow.
mother used to be a police officer, and she was killed when he was 20. And now he goes around and donates these homes. And in all of the homes, there's like some sort of like nod or reminder to his mother in all these homes. But he goes around and donates homes to this foundation. And I stumbled. This is my first time on Snopes, but looking for more stuff about Warrick Dunn, I accidentally stumbled onto Snopes, and Snopes says that this story is true, reliable, and correct. So,
Oh, good.
this is 6,000 steps ahead of meme news.
There we
into
go. That's
Snopes
pretty
approved.
good. That's pretty good. That's awesome. You said how many homes? 170.
3. And he
That's awesome.
he just got to 173, I believe, within like the last day or two. So
That's fantastic.
yeah.
Well, Warren Dunn, we appreciate it. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
You betcha.
I love that idea about, like, we've talked about Warren Dunn. We've also talked about that one billionaire that paid off debts for, all the graduating students of Morehouse class of 2019 or something like that. That's the sort of, sometimes I feel bad that I do dream about just having ridiculous amounts of money, but I also dream about enjoying myself with that money, and then also doing things like Warrick Dunn, and I wish I remember the other guy's name, and like the guy that paid off the donations or the debts.
The debt.
That's the kind of stuff I'd like to do with my money. And
absolutely.
while still also thoroughly enjoying it. And I think that that's very possible.
Well, I think that's the thing is that I don't remember who said it. I think it was maybe Dave Ramsey, who's like a financial guy. He has a book called The Total Money Makeover. If you haven't read it and you're not good with your money, check it out. I mean, I'm not great with money yet either, but it's definitely taught me a lot of great stuff. But he says you try to get so you can give, something along those lines. One of the reasons why you accumulate wealth is so you can give back. You can be in a position to do that. And I can't agree with you more, Jared. And it's always, I think, so great when you do see people doing this, because I think, sadly, there are a lot of greedy people out there in the world, but there are some who are willing to help people in need. And that's great. So, Jared, I got one last shout out. So, there's always been this talk of the how problematic Columbus Day is, right? Columbus comes to America, does all sorts of terrible things to a lot of indigenous people. Obviously not just him, but his whole crew. And so there have been decades of pushing and waiting for people to really give recognition to the people who I think really deserve it, which are the indigenous people. And so now Wisconsin has become the 12th state to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. So I think this is really great. So I want to give a shout out to Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, who issued an executive order declaring the day last week. And Wisconsin is home to 11 federally recognized indigenous nations. And Jared, just so you know, because I know you love these facts, this has been ongoing since 1989. That there have been numerous different national indigenous advocacy groups that have been pushing for this alteration in hopes of repositioning the idea of what it means to be American. Many cities have previously recognized the day, now also including Madison. And so I think this is great. And not only is that great, but there are some different student groups that are, indigenous people student groups, and they also held an event seeking to connect indigenous students with one another and foster a positive dialogue surrounding their identity. So I want to give a shout out to not only the Governor Tony Evers, but also all of the indigenous students who are able to get together and hopefully foster a more positive dialogue surrounding their identity. I think this is great, and we need to give a lot more credit to all the indigenous people around the world. So yeah.
It is ridiculous that we still celebrate Columbus Day, and there's really no real argument for it, it's right. It's not like it's not like those hardcore nationalist I love America people can be like, "Whoa, we're ruining America's history." It's like, this has nothing to do with America's history. I mean, I guess besides for the fact that it was the same soil, but it was like, this is hundreds of years before America was even, considered.
Right. Right.
So, like, it is odd that people would even fight against that. But I think that if there is fighting against that, which I would assume there is, I think it just speaks more to the bigger picture of racism than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
You know what time it is, Jared?
I do. Before I ruined it by bringing up racism, I was getting all excited for these untranslatables.
Mind if I get us started, Jared?
Yeah. I do mind. No, I'm kidding.
You do? So I've got, speaking of staying motivated and inspired for language learning, I've noticed, especially because Annabelle was with me in Beijing over the last weekend, and I was speaking mostly German with her, and also speaking German with her and her crew members at dinner. I realized I need to keep up on my German. So I've got 2 German untranslatables for you today, Jared. And it'll also help you keep up on your German. So here we go. The first one is, Niemand kann mir das Wasser reichen.
I don't know what reichen is.
Reichen is, it means either to reach or if you use it in the dative case, like in this instance, it can also mean like to pass. Like, kannst du mir das Pfeffer
like to reach
reichen?
it to me.
To pass. To reach it to me or to pass, but yeah.
Oh, okay, so no one can pass the water.
Or I would say this one might be easier to discombobulate, which is a great word.
No,
if
someone
you
is
say,
discombobulated. You can't. That's someone is
Jared,
discombobulated.
maybe I want to make
you can't
you discombobulated.
discombobulate something.
I just made it a thing, Jared. You heard it first here at the Untranslatable Podcast. Anyways, how about decipher, Jared? Is that better for you?
Okay, I kind of like discombobulate.
Right? No one can reach me the water.
No one can reach me the water. Like, no one is on, like, get on my level kind of thing. It's like,
hit that ham horn, my dude.
Oh, yeah.
Hit that ham horn. Very good. Yeah.
Also, the ham horn seems like the perfect response to get on my level.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Get on my level, bitch.
Your parents are going to be listening to that and just be like, "Oh, we are so disappointed in Jared."
Hey, get on my level. My first untranslatable is Haitian Creole. I enjoy this language. I don't get it, but I don't get most of the languages I spew here on this podcast. So this is no different than the other. But like, sometimes I read a language and I'm like, what can I relate this to?
Right.
And I feel like, anyway, this is Haitian Creole, and it's Salave men sie iate. And the literal translation is, it's washing your hands and wiping them on the floor.
So it's like you're doing something counterproductive. Yeah.
I'm going to give that to you. Essentially, yeah. It's like a useless effort where, it's like...
Right. Like, why would you wash your hands and wipe them on the floor? Like, that's just like you're...
I actually just thought of, and I'm going to give you a bonus. I thought of an English or American. I don't know about England English, but an American English untranslatable that we have here.
That's similar to that.
Yeah.
Something.
This is terrible because.
All right, what is it? What is it?
I forgot as I was.
Oh no, we'll never know, Jared. Oh jeez.
I was asking, oh shit, I forgot.
I was like. And this one's not even close.
Hold on. It was a useless effort. What did you say? What did you say as your response? I feel like I just had it and I lost it.
I said like you're doing something. Like you're doing something that's. I'm trying to think.
All right, let's move on. I'm so sorry, everyone. Chad, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry to myself as I'm editing this later.
Hold up, let me. I want to.
Figure out immediately what I'm thinking of.
I want to try to think of it real quick. So let's see here. What did I say? So, well, first of all, here, tell me the untranslatable again, like in Haitian Creole.
Se lave men sie y ate. And the literal translation is, it's washing your hands and wiping them on the floor.
So, you're doing something that's like counterproductive.
Yes.
Is what I said.
Yes. Doing something that's counterproductive. Something to spite your face is what I was thinking of.
Okay. I've never heard that one before.
Oh, something to spite your face is the English untranslatable.
All right. While Jared looks that up, I'll give him for our listeners in China. While you're doing that, I'll give you the next German untranslatable. It is.
I got it.
Das,
Hold on.
Okay, what is it?
Cut off your nose to spite your face is what I was thinking of. Or it's kind of the same thing where it's like you're essentially it's just that's what it made me think of. Sorry, go ahead. Your German untranslatable.
Nice. There we go.
Please.
My
That
German
was worth the 5
untranslatable.
minutes.
It was. I would say it was. All right, here we go. Das geht ab wie Schmidts Katze.
That goes like Schmidt's Katze, like something cats.
That goes off like Schmitz's cat.
Oh, that
Schmitz
goes
is
off.
just like a last name.
Oh, that went off like a what is it called? Where it's like not like a grenade and where it's like that went off like a bomb and funeral or something like that. That's a bad. Probably not it.
Oh, we just came up with a new untranslatable.
I don't know
Well,
if I
Jared,
like
here
that one.
I'll
like
give
a
you
fart in a funeral or something like that.
Is that I love these. I hope you keep. I think you need to make a segment where you just make up random untranslatables because
Slipping
these
on
are
gator
great.
piss.
These are right. Yeah, proof. The proof is in the pudding, Jared. That's for sure. Well, Jared, I'll help you out with this one because I'm looking for a very specific term, and if you can think of the Ron Burgundy meme where he has the beer up, what does the meme say?
Well, that escalated quickly.
There we go. That's
Okay.
what this means. That escalated quickly.
Can you give me the English literal again?
That goes off like Schmitz's cat.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You know, you don't have to know who Schmitz is to understand that.
Right.
As someone that slightly fears, and by slightly I mean almost kind of fully fears cats. I don't. It's not that I fear them. It's just they make me uncomfortable. Let's put it that way.
Cats are suspicious, man. They are suspicious little buggers.
Especially when they're walking all over me. I get so I never know about those retractable claws. You know, those could come out at any moment, and I'm just like,
right?
And when they do come out, they come in hot. But anyway, you don't have to know anything about Schmitz, but just to know that everyone knows that a cat can be kind of unpredictable. You know, and you can never fully, trust a cat, especially if you don't know the cat. You know,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another one, and it's Spanish, and it's tener violín. Oh, excuse me. Tener violín.
To have a violin.
Perfect.
Okay. To have
Parada.
This isn't like what we say, like the world's smallest violin when like someone's telling like a sob story, is it?
No, Mr. Krabs does actually happen to own the world's smallest violin.
That is true.
It actually.
That's true.
This is a classic untranslatable in the sense that I don't think you're going to get this.
Okay. To
Let's
have a violin.
All right.
Is it?
I'm gonna give
is
you
it
a
to have
clue.
Is it to have a good time?
No.
Okay. All right, give me a clue.
I really don't think you're going to get this, and this is no
Okay.
offense to you because I wouldn't either. So let's imagine we're in class. We're in a class in high school together or middle school or something, and there's always that one person that is the first person say, hey, who is the third president of the United States of America? And that one person is just like, ooh, me. Their hands raised.
Right.
And you, being the sort of high school bully that you are known to be, you would be in the back of the classroom to be like, oh my gosh, who has a violin? Am I right? And everyone would be like, ha 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 ha.
Okay.
And then that person in the front of the classroom would be so embarrassed and immediately put their hand down and look away in shame.
So to have a violin, is that like a... Like I know what you mean, but I'm trying to express it with words since this is a podcast that people listen to.
See, which makes me think that you don't know what it means. Because it's very simple. It's very simple, and it has nothing to do with what it sounds like.
Look at this nerd.
No. See?
No. Okay.
I did too much.
Okay. What is it? Give it to me.
Okay. It means your armpit smell.
Really? Your armpit smell. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's hilarious.
I saw that and I was like, I have to do this one because there's no way. Like, if you did figure this out, you'd be cheating somehow, and I'd be like, how are you looking at my computer screen on the other side of my computer screen?
Yeah, I actually hacked into our Skype, so it's screen share the whole time when you're talking, Jared.
I love that one. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's specifically Venezuelan Spanish.
Oh, cool. Interesting. All right. I love all the, like, I would love to have on, like, a native speaker of Spanish that could, like, tell us, like, some of these from their home country and then, like, different spots. That would be so cool.
I feel like we could make that happen.
We definitely could. Well, I have a couple people from MSU I could probably contact.
How many times have you talked about one of your best friends from high school being
that's
from
true.
Chile?
That's true.
But he's there, isn't he?
He is.
Right.
And he's in medical school.
Take some
he's a busy guy.
People
right
in
now.
medical school don't have time for anything.
Right. All right. I got one last one for you, and it is Chinese. You know, I'm not going to skimp on my Chinese untranslatables.
Mama hoo hoo.
Because I will admit, once we do talk about the main segment today, I have also been lacking the inspiration and motivation to learn Chinese. It's getting better. But anyways, this is one way that's keeping me a little bit motivated. So here we go. It is... it's funny. I have to, like, with my hands, I have to, like, do the up or down when I talk to, like, make sure I pronounce. And I'm sure I still mispronounce them. But anyways, here we go. Yong, Yige, Quatsi, Chifan, de Ren. Oh, I said that wrong. De Ren, Shi Ida, which means a man with one chopstick goes hungry.
Like you gotta like work for your, like you need to use all your resources. It's like it's about who you know.
I can see exactly why you would think that, Jared, but no, that is not what this means. So think about this, Jared. If you are eating with one chopstick, it's obviously not possible to eat, right?
Sure.
I mean, in theory, I guess you could stab something and eat it like that if it's like a dumpling or something.
Uncouth.
Also true. And you shouldn't do that in China, by the way.
Or I think most Asian chopstick using countries.
I would probably say all of them. But anyways, so if you only have one chopstick, you could say that you're missing the other chopstick. And when you only have one thing, but now you have two things... Are you?
Or it's like you're kind of like an idiot.
No, Jared. When you have one thing, so think about it this way, Jared. We'll use. I'm trying to think of another like thing. All right. So say if you only have,
like you're missing a piece of the puzzle. You're like, like I can't fully understand this because I'm missing. There's something's missing here. Like maybe or like someone's telling you a story. And, like, maybe it's like, you're like, hey, where were you all night? And it's like, oh, well, I tripped and I, sprained my toe, so I had to go to the hospital. And you're like, hold on, something's not adding up here.
So, also, I see where you're coming from, but no, and I'm gonna say this is my fault for not doing a good enough job explaining it, but I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah, no, I would agree with you.
Kidding.
This just means you need to find balance in your life. That's why I was trying to talk about, like, if you only have one thing, it's unbalanced. You need two things to kind of balance each other out.
I gotcha.
So you need to find balance in your life.
Okay.
So yeah.
I think that's important when it comes to language learning too. Ooh, that was good.
Absolutely.
Hey,
absolutely.
Does Chad feel motivated to learn Chinese? That's the first thing I have written here on my notes.
Oh, nice. Well, what would your answer be?
No, is my answer.
Okay.
You know why? Because you haven't brought it up once. And we do a podcast twice a week that mostly has to do with learning languages.
And culture too, but yeah, that's a good point.
And I noticed, I don't know, I would say, and no is a little harsh, I wouldn't say no.
Okay.
But I would say you haven't been making the effort. I would say that. I wouldn't say
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with that.
Now, can I ask you this first?
Absolutely.
Now that you're in China and you're in the situation where you're struggling to have the motivation to learn the language. Now, it's odd that they call it... Is it odd... Real quick, is it odd that they call it Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese? Like, why do they just call it Chinese?
Well, so Mandarin is like the standard where most everybody in China, or at least I would assume most educated people in China, can speak Mandarin. That's like the standard for everything. And then Cantonese is a southern dialect of Chinese. And I think the difference is, and I could be wrong about this, but I think... Yeah, Mandarin is just like the standard spoken Chinese language throughout China. And then Cantonese is in the south. And I believe they also speak Cantonese in Macau and maybe also Hong Kong, but I could be wrong.
They say the south, but it's still like a large population, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you, now, the reason I brought all of this up is because I wonder... Are you starting to understand? I remember when you first moved to Czech Republic and you were sort of not shocked, but like sort of disappointed that people that were in positions that like you before you were not as motivated to try to learn Czech, and that people were surprised that you were trying to learn Czech. Can you sort of look at that in more perspective now that you're in a situation where you might be in a relatable situation to someone like that?
I'm going to give you a yes and a no. I know that's unfair.
A classic yine from Chad.
That's right, the classic yine, which is German yes and no combined for our non-German speaking listeners. So I would say if you have the resources available to you and you don't take them, I don't understand that. Because most schools that I know of for the Fulbright program in Czech Republic, they will make some arrangement where you can have free Czech lessons. Usually, like for me, it was I met with the Czech teacher and a school administrator once a week, and we would do kind of a tandem.
Right.
It was
you would teach them English, and they would teach you Czech.
And they taught me Czech. Now, I also should have I'm going to be honest with you, I should have put more effort into learning Czech as well. So maybe I should actually be smart and take that as a learning lesson, and really, hopefully, it'll light a fire under my ass, and I'll actually get to really learning Chinese. But I won't, at least at my university, I won't be able to take Chinese classes until next semester. So they'll be free and offered by the university, which, I'm planning on doing that. The only reason why I wouldn't do it is if I'm teaching while the class is happening. But the thing that I'm hoping to find now is a Chinese tutor. The problem is that I have a lot of students that I'm sure would be very happy to help me learn Chinese. Like, they're always really helpful when I have questions about Chinese culture. Like, for example, when I went to class this week, while I was in Beijing, the taxi cab driver asked me, have I eaten yet? Which in Chinese is just like a way to say, how are you? And then the way you answer that is like, I have eaten already. Are you good? I'm good, right? And so when I asked my student, I already kind of knew what it meant, but I wanted to ask my students just to kind of show them, like, I'm trying to be aware of your culture too. And so they really liked that, and they explained it, and I just saw their faces light up. And so
you're a smooth devil there, Chad.
That's right. What can I say? But the whole reason why I mention all that stuff is that there are some things that I'm picking up, and my students would be happy, I think, to tutor me. But for me personally, I think that's a conflict of interest. Like, if I'm your classroom teacher and you're tutoring me, then I think I might not grade them as fairly as other students because, maybe we become friends or whatever. And I just don't think that's fair. I think next semester, if I'm not teaching one of my students and they want to tutor me, then sure, that's great. But so basically the whole reason for this long rant, I could have made this much shorter and just said, I need to find someone at my university who's not my student who would be willing to teach me Chinese.
See, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand. Obviously, it's just easier, especially in your situation, just play it, more safe than sorry, and not partake in these things if you're even questioning it. But I feel like that's an interesting sort of ethical conversation to have about that, because I don't know if I fully agree with you, but I'm in no place to tell you why.
Right. That's fair.
It's just an interesting way to, but I understand why you would think that too. Anyway, okay. So you're not like it's maybe I'm overestimating how motivated you were to learn, and I'm not putting this all on you because I'm in a similar boat too. Let's just be clear. But like maybe I'm putting a little too much on you because you were in an easier situation to get that Czech education, where maybe you weren't like maybe if you weren't like if it wasn't as readily available to you, you would be in a very similar situation to the one you are in right now in China, where it's like, yes, of course, I'd happily learn it and I'd love to be more proficient. But because the opportunity hasn't presented itself, I haven't put myself, I'm speaking as you, in a position to actively find that education that theoretically I would like to have or you would like to have.
Right. Now, what I have been trying to do, though, is there's a few Chinese, it's called Chinese Pod or Chinese Pod 101. I have been listening to those once in a while. But that's
people
been very...
do say that, oh, I really want to learn English. Oh, man, I wish I was a better English speaker. Oh, have you heard of the Untranslatable podcast? Spread a little love.
That's right. That is right. But yeah, but I think the thing is I need to have more structured study of the language. But I'm going to be honest with you, like with Chinese, like with Czech, I kind of had an idea of where to begin, right? But with Chinese, and I know these sound like excuses, like I'm not trying to make excuses here, but
these are, let's be fair, Chad, before you get into this, these are excuses that everyone, like you're not alone in this. And
that's
I think
also
it's useful
true.
for
That's
you
a
to
good
say
point.
this so other people realize that they're not alone and for you to realize that you're not alone, Chad.
Right. Well, I appreciate it, buddy. I appreciate it. But because I don't know where to begin, because I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different people. You know, like some people are like, oh, just ignore the characters altogether, and don't worry about them. But then on the other hand,
focus
it's
on
like
conversational.
Exactly. Which I agree to some extent. Like really, my goal here in China is to be able to do basic things conversationally, but
that's kind of what you recommended to me for learning Spanish, by the way.
Well, are you going to be writing academic papers in Spanish?
Probably not.
I mean, and look, and reading Spanish, I mean, I would say Spanish is I think reading skills in Spanish are different than reading skills in Chinese because
That's
you don't
true.
have to learn
Spanish
characters.
Is the same characters and it's very phonetic too.
Right. So, I mean, for you, like reading Spanish, you could probably, if you can speak basic Spanish, you could probably pick up a very basic book and be able to make heads and tails of it. You know what I mean? Or like for travel purposes, you could probably go to a restaurant and figure out, what's on the menu, even if there's no pictures, right? Whereas Chinese characters are a whole different beast to learn.
Right. But
I think it's also a really interesting insight into the culture, which is why I would like to learn a little bit about the characters. Now, am I going to become fluent in Chinese in this year I'm here? Probably not. I would say like 99% no. If I stay here for another year, which right now, little spoiler alert, I'm definitely leaning to that, especially if I can renew at my university. I really love it, my university here. But anyways, so I think with 2 years, if I actually put in the work, I think now fluent, maybe not, but like conversational, like very basic conversational, and definitely comprehension-wise, for sure. I think that is attainable. And I'm already like, there are certain words that I pick up now that like I've heard enough where like I know, and some of them I've learned from context, like the word dui. Well, I've heard dui and dewey, so I don't know which is proper. Which also, once again, because I don't have a private tutor or a teacher, these are questions I need to figure out because I don't want to be always saying the wrong thing. But anyways, that means like right or like yeah or like correct. I hear people use it all the time. And like I said, there are other words like jigga.
It's like stimmt. Like das stimmt.
Yeah, it's like
that's
stimmt.
the German form of like I agree or that's right or you're essentially yes, but like in agreement.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but anyways, I think the key, but the reason why I wanted to do this episode, one is I hope it will inspire both of us and inspire others, obviously. But I will tell you, Jared, after going to Beijing and sitting at Chinese restaurant with like a bunch of German crew members, where one of them spoke Chinese, well, a little bit of Chinese, and her and I were really the only ones that knew a few basic phrases. You know, I'm not trying to tout myself as this guy who speaks good Chinese, because I definitely don't. Listen to my Chinese Untranslatables and you will learn very, very quickly that I don't speak great Chinese by any means. But that like was when I kind of realized like I was, you know, and some of it wasn't even speaking. Like I was doing the numbers here are different in China. So, you know, you have one. For our listeners, I'll explain what I'm doing. So you have 1 with your index finger, 2 with your index and middle finger. At least where I live, they do 3, kind of like the OK symbol. So it would be your middle finger, your ring finger, and your pinky.
Supremacist.
Then you have 4, which is the same way we would do it in the United States, with your 4 fingers, and then your thumb is inside your palm. 5 is all 5 fingers, but then 6 for our Americans out there, it's like the hang loose symbol. So it's your thumb and your pinky.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's 6. So it's all done on one hand. So 6. 6, then at least I've seen some people do 7, where it's like you put your fingers and your thumb together to make like a V.
Like a Kermit the Frog mouth.
Kind of, yeah, but you point your hand up.
Okay.
7, 8 is kind of like finger guns almost. 8.
Shooters. Yeah.
9 is like a little hook with your index finger, and 10 is the fist closed.
Interesting.
So when we were ordering
that seems
food,
way more convenient though. Like
it's great. Yeah, it's great being able to do it on one hand. And I learned that 6 is a lucky number in China.
Like there's no confusion. There's no confusion with that too.
Right, exactly. And so anyways, so when we were ordering food though, I was doing like the you know, if it was past 5, I would do the things, and the waitress like knew immediately. Like it was, yeah. So that was like one of those things that kind of inspired me.
I mean, there's the same thing in Germany, where it's like if you like no one like if you do a 3, where you have your thumb and your pinky, and like your middle 3 fingers up. That's very American thing to do. The Germans do the.
It's thumb.
I couldn't do it.
Thumb, index, and middle finger. Yeah, and like that's how if you've seen the movie Inglourious Bastards, that's how they get caught that they're not German.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but see, being one of the few people that could even speak a little bit of Chinese, you know, like, and once again, it's very basic, but like what we were doing is when we were looking at the menu, I would point and I would say "jiga," which means this. And then she would look at me and I would tell her with the different, you know, hand signals. So that kind of inspired me a little bit and motivated me that's when I started to realize like, oh, wow, like you are picking up some bits and pieces of Chinese culture, albeit very basic, but still.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a good way.
To feel more like the more you pick up, the more it starts to feel like possible, you know, where it's like, oh, I could probably do this if I,
Right. And the other thing I've noticed, Jared, is that when I was in the Czech Republic, the first like 2.5 months, every night I was exhausted. And at first, like, I didn't know why. I thought it was maybe my teaching load. I taught a lot of classes. I definitely had a heavier teaching load there than I do here. But, you know, I was getting enough sleep. It wasn't that I wasn't getting enough sleep. But what I realized was my brain was really trying to process and figure out the language around me. And I think that's what really kind of tired me out. Like I would hear people speak in Czech and I would try to figure it out. And now I've realized that like I think my brain has now gotten accustomed to like being okay with not knowing everything that's going on around me in a foreign language. But also I do pick up now here in China on certain words I know. Like ren means person, for example. So I'll hear different like ren.
But in general, it does take more brain power to, you know, act like, you know, when you and I speak in English together, you don't have to think about what I'm saying to be able to comprehend what I'm saying. It just goes in and immediately you know what I'm saying. But there's just an extra filter. Even when I speak German, and even as someone that in my heyday, like say in, you know, right before I moved back to the U.S. or something, and you know, and when I lived in Germany in the 4th year, I could speak pretty conversationally, but there still was like I still didn't feel like I was at, you know, sort of the fluency level where there wasn't like a filter that it had to pass through in my head in order to you know, comprehend it.
And I hate to say this, but I definitely was there, but I think I'm starting to lose it. Like I realized when I was talking to Annabelle and her crew, I had to think really hard about where I was saying. Now I wasn't translating back and forth.
How do you think I feel?
Not great. Not great. But
yeah.
So,
I feel so like kind of shitty, you know.
right. Well, but hey, this is why we're having this talk, Jared, so we can inspire ourselves and get motivated.
Yeah, no, you're right. This is why we're having this talk. I'm sorry I cut you off. Once again, you're a beautifully old pixelated person. I have some tips to inspire and someone to learn a new language, and I just want to run through some of them with you. Maybe get a quick little insight from you on them, how you feel about this.
Let's do it.
You have to actually want to learn. Like you can't just be like. For example, I've talked in early episodes many times about how for many, many years I took French in elementary school and middle school and high school, and I never really became anywhere close to as proficient as I should have been. And a lot of that's just because I was always taking it my entire life because I was required to take another language. And I was like, I guess, I started with French somehow. I guess I'll stick with it,
Right.
And I never really gave it the time of day that it deserved.
Right.
When I learned German, I actually wanted to learn because my friends around me were speaking German. I had neighbors that I played soccer with. I lived in Germany, and it was easier to buy things. You have to actually want to do it. I think that's a big thing. And you can't. I feel like you also can't lie to yourself about wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Because the proof is in the pudding,
Almost
untranslatable right there, by the way.
I agree 100%.
Sometimes I wonder about that with myself regarding things like, say, Spanish.
Or Chinese for me, maybe.
As soon as I sort of gave up, on falsa identidad, I was like, all right, my attempt to find shows or to watch movies in Spanish just fell off. And also kind of with piano too. I mean, we always talk about how language and music have a lot of similarities, but it's just like, I know I want to in my head, but it's just like, but my actions aren't reflecting that. So that's one I have.
Okay, I agree with you. Let me give you my 2 cents real quick. That
Please.
is what we do here, Jared. But anyways, I would say 100%. I think a lot of people have and even myself too. We have this kind of romanticized idea of, oh, it would be so great if I was, a polyglot or I could speak all these languages. But talk is cheap, and I think the toughest thing is being able to just do it. Sit down. And I mean, that's even my problem is I have enough. I mean, I'm busy, but I have enough. I could make the free time to sit down and spend 20 minutes a day doing something in Chinese. And you know what? I think you and I should make a pact today, right here, right now, where we are going to spend at least, we'll start easy. We'll ease into it. At least 10 minutes a day. You doing Spanish, me doing Chinese, 10 minutes every day. And what I think we should do is at the end of every week, I think you and I should report to each other, whether we do it on the podcast or not, we should report to each other and tell each other what we've learned.
I'm going to do this. We do Chinese and Spanish words of the pod every episode. And I'm not telling you anything about your Chinese word, but for me, I would request that I replace my Spanish word of the pod with what I've done to, forward my Spanish in the past, however many days we have between each episode. Whether that be looking up some sort of, maybe, for example, I love cars. Maybe I'll look up car videos, like my, the standard sort of car videos I watch, but find someone that does in Spanish. Songs that'll help with our songs of the pod, maybe.
Right.
Like it could be sort of any sort of intake of the language
and the culture.
Would be very useful.
Yes. Do it. Yes. That would be great. I'm going to continue doing Chinese words of the pod because I just enjoy them, and it's
a little more urgent for you.
Right. Well, and some of them are like cool words. Like it's always interesting to see like when I did the word, I think I did I think it was education, and like the character actually had a couple different meanings. So for me, like that's an interesting way to learn some other stuff. Yeah. What?
I can also just pull, like, we can make this. I mean, I could also just like if I'm doing a lot of Spanish, sort of, if I'm doing staying consistent with, say, 10 minutes of Spanish intake a day, I could ideally find a word out of that somewhere, So maybe
Sounds
that
good.
could just be how I evolve my Spanish word of the pod section.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
wow, look at that. All right, let's move on. Continually challenge yourself. For example, set goals where you require yourself to do 10 minutes of work a day and bring it to your podcast for your tens of listeners to listen to.
Yeah, I think that's great.
This also covers, all these are kind of the same. I'm going to just blast through a couple of these in one go. Create a routine and set goals. Those are kind of both similar, but not the same thing. I think it's important to make sure that, as we always talk about when it comes to language learning, one of the most important things is consistency. So I think make sure that you can consistently commit to doing something once a week at the least. Obviously, more is ideal, but at the very least, just get to some sort of schedule where you can have yourself. And I also you don't have to make these insane goals where it's like, all right, for 2 hours every day, I'm going to sit down and commit this amount of time to it. It's just having the consistency of immersing yourself in the language, I think. So even if you start with 30 minutes every week, it's better than doing 2 hours every 3 to 6 weeks or whatever.
100%. I would say it's even better to do like 2 to 5 minutes a day. I would say if you can do it on a daily basis and make it a habit, I think it's either like between 3 to 6 weeks is how long it takes for something to become a habit. Maybe 8 weeks. I'm not really sure. But yeah, if you can do it every day, I think that's super important. Super duper important.
Make it fun. And by make it fun, I mean find events around this. Now, maybe you're trying to learn Spanish. Maybe you could find a cool club or bar or something that plays salsa music, and you could dance to that, for example. Or make a trip around something like Oktoberfest if you're trying to learn German. Sort of events where you could you can have situations where you can immerse yourself, but also you could sort of it goes along with setting goals in the sense where it's like, hey, I know that I want to say travel to, like, I would love, my girlfriend and I would love to travel to Colombia. We know we can get there cheap, and we both would love to go to South America. Something like that would make me be like, I would like to go to Colombia knowing that I could at least order some food and say hello, And
definitely.
not completely just fall apart and go to the do you speak English right away. And so I would say make it fun, and and don't just make it like some sort of chore. And I think a lot of the reasons why I focus on languages that I want to learn or that I try to learn at least something is so I don't feel like a fool when I go to that country.
Yeah, I would agree. I think another important thing to stay inspired and motivated when learning a language is by making it like a part of your life. Like you mentioned, like watching car videos. I think that's a great idea. It has to have some connection to your life. You can't just learn a language to learn a language. Like you have to learn it either for travel purposes or, like for me, learning German, a big part of it was like I wanted to learn more about like German music. And when I say German music, I mean like German rock music and pop music and all that stuff. And so I think there has to be some type of intrinsic thing about the language that you can connect with in your like normal daily life. I think that's really important to keep motivated.
Yes. Make friends that speak that language. Now that's obviously difficult in theory, but if you're listening to this podcast or if you're recording this podcast, I'm talking to us, you know how to work the internet pretty thoroughly, and you can find communities on Facebook, even though I'm sick of Facebook. Dude, Facebook has, ever since, Chad and I got hacked on our Facebook. Someone wanted to hack our measly, untranslatable podcast Facebook page, and it messed up both of our accounts. Now I can't even see notifications anymore. They just don't show up on either my computer or my phone. It doesn't show up. Kind of a blessing in disguise. I kind of love it. It's kind of great. But that's sort of the antithesis of what I'm about to say right now. Make friends that speak that language. And I know that's lofty, especially coming from someone like me that waxes poetically about how terrible I am at making friends. But that doesn't mean I'm bad at the internet. And I know that there are communities on the internet where you can focus it on whatever you're, much like, as I mentioned a second ago, your car videos. Focus it on whatever it is you're actually interested in. Right. And there's probably people that speak the, Spanish or Italian or whatever the language is that are also interested in the same thing, that are talking about it on social media, because that's how social media works. Have you ever partaken, Mr. English teacher?
Partaken.
Have partaken? Have you ever partaken in any sort of online groups for German?
That's a good question.
Or that not even for German. Online groups that could be about anything that are spoken in German.
Oh yeah, I have a couple I have a couple Czech ones as well on Facebook, where it's like random, like learn Czech. Since I've been to China, I mean, my Facebook use has gone down incredibly. I feel really bad, actually. I still have about 20 messages in my inbox for my birthday that I still haven't responded to, because it's so much work just to get on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, but it's also
I do like the idea of that, where I also have some Instagram pages. Once again, I don't really check Instagram anymore since I've been in China, rarely check it. But I have a couple Czech pages there. I don't have any Chinese ones, although I'm sure there are plenty of them on Facebook and Instagram. I just didn't look because I figured I probably wouldn't be using them that much here in China. So any excuse I have, and like you said, with the whole not receiving Facebook notifications, it's been kind of nice. It's been really nice not having to be on Facebook all the time, not feeling like I need to be on social media. But on the other hand, I will agree with you there. I think social media can be a really useful tool to learn language, connect with people, and also just see stuff on a daily basis where it can keep you up and inspired and motivated to continue to keep learning that language. And I think it's also important that whenever you learn a language, you have to be aware. It's not always going to be easy, and the more times you can make it fun, the better. But some days it's not going to be fun. Some days it's going to be difficult to understand certain concepts or whatever,
fair.
And you just have to accept it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's why you have to find things that keep you engaged, especially in a self-taught situation. Maybe not self-taught, but you have to push yourself to, get to those places where you can learn. Let's put it that way. I don't want to say self-taught, but Hey, one of my ways that I promise you that I will be using to, come to you with my sort of small snippets of ways that I'm trying to immerse myself into Spanish will 100% be music involved.
Oh, absolutely.
I can guarantee that.
Absolutely.
Now,
before
we here at the. No, go ahead, please.
But before you go where I think you're going, I want to just give a couple more tips, if that's cool.
Please.
So I think, like you said, I think the social media is good. I think also doing things in your daily life with the language is important. Finding friends, like you also said, is super important. This isn't a super realistic one, but if you could find a boyfriend or a girlfriend who speaks that language, I think that can be incredibly helpful and incredibly motivating. Hey, if you're single and ready to mingle,
get married, get a green card, and just move to that country.
That's right, exactly.
It's just that easy.
Another thing though too is I think sometimes too, to stay motivated and inspired, you have to try unorthodox methods. So like one thing that I've thought about doing, and I might still do it, we'll see. If I do it, I'll send you pictures. What I've been thinking about doing is buying a shit ton of Post-it notes and like writing the Chinese words for like door and then the character and like table and chair and just like posting it all around my apartment.
Classic.
You know, like I live alone, so it's like the only person that would get sick of it in theory is me anyway. So it's like, why not? You know? And so trying unorthodox methods can also kind of keep it fresh and keep it interesting. Because if you're just using a textbook all the time, like that gets pretty boring, at least in my opinion, unless you're super motivated. Like it really depends on your motivation levels. But this episode is for those of us who aren't always incredibly motivated.
Yeah, we're talking about staying motivated to learn
Exactly.
those languages.
Exactly. So yeah.
Because it's, the easiest part is to be like, I want to learn this language. I'm going to do it. And it's like, all right, do it. And it's like, all right, I'll get back to you in like 13 years.
Exactly. But yeah, so unorthodox methods are important. I think if you have the opportunity, enroll in some online class, enroll in a class at a university or like some community centers in the States I know offer language stuff. Also like clubs. There might be like a German association or a Spanish association where you can go. Now, obviously that depends on your language level. And if you're really willing to jump in the deep end, some people are and some people aren't. So it really depends. And yeah, so I guess those would be my last couple of tips. And don't be afraid some days to just accept the fact that you need to hunker down and be disciplined and still push through it. So, and I'm excited because starting today, Jared and I are going to spend 10 minutes a day, him doing something for Spanish, me doing something for Chinese. So I'm excited to see what this progress we will make together. And that leads me to my very last point, is find a buddy where you can keep each other accountable, you can motivate each other, and you can share what you learn. You know, I know Jared, well, at least I think Jared is curious to know about the Chinese stuff I'll be learning. He seems like he's interested, so I think it'll be good. And I am 100%, I am 100% curious to hear what Jared is learning in Spanish, because I can speak a little bit of Spanish, so I'll try to learn vicariously through Jared. But now I agree with you, Jared. Music is an amazing way to learn languages, and I think we should talk about our song of the pod.
Yes. This person is part of my French. Fucking amazing.
Yeah. Tash Sultana is absolutely fantastic. And the song is Tash Sultana Jungle. Sorry.
Yes. Well, no, you're fine. I started with the Tiny Desk concert just to get like a vibe of it, you know, and then from there I started to look for songs and stuff. But what the first thing it made me think of, actually kind of made me crack up thinking of, was you and I trying to do jam sessions where we would try to, well, actually, there were points where it was we, because you'd be like, all right, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to need you to hit this exactly on the one.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Was the looping part of it where you have to time it up perfectly. I mean, which makes sense. It's not but you have to time it up perfectly for that loop to work, or else very quickly, you know, maybe for the first 3 loops, it kind of works, but then it'll very quickly fall out of sync if it's just constantly slightly out of sync and it's looping. So just watching them loop it and it be so smooth, I was already like, oh, you son of a bitch. How are you doing this?
Right.
But Tash Sultana is I guess like a multi-instrument talented person that, at least in this song, does everything from guitar to singing to bass to percussion to like an electronic bass line also, like electronic beat under that.
Like a synth or, a beat. Gotcha.
And the version of the song that you will all see on the Untranslatable Podcast YouTube Song of the Pod playlist will be the bedroom like I don't remember what they call it, but it's like the bedroom sort of version of it. And essentially, they just are in their bedroom producing it on the fly, or I don't know if it's on the fly, but like producing it theoretically, in one go is at least the vibe that. I mean, if they're doing it in their room and controlling all those different parts, there's a good chance that that's probably true. I believe. Excuse me. I just drank a sparkling water, and it shows. But it's very impressive. I was so impressed. It's very unique too. It almost kind of reminds me of like a one-person hiatus coyote almost.
Right.
Which is a Song of the Pod that we had, or like an artist from a Song of the Pod we had many episodes ago. But that has turned into one of my a very artist that I listen to all the time nowadays. So I got that vibe, but a very different feel. Like it's a little like I don't want to say not aggressive. That's not the right word, but it's like a slightly different vibe.
For sure.
But still like a similar concept in the way that I feel like the music is made in a weird way. And maybe that's not true, but that's just the vibe I get. I really enjoyed it. And, it's always cool to see, not only to see like cool songs or hear cool songs, but to also see the artist doing it and to know that like, to see that like, oh, this is a legitimate artist through and through. Almost artist more than performer. Not that they're a bad performer, but it's clearly artistry first here.
Right. Oh yeah, and like you said, it's so challenging to be able to manage all those different layers and textures with a loop station. And Tosh Sultana does an amazing job.
We
so
tried
check
to
it
add
out.
a simple bass line,
and it took us more than 5 tries.
8 tries.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah. So check that out. Jungle by Tosh Sultana. It is fantastic. You will not be disappointed.
Yes.
Well, Jared, it is time for my Chinese word of the pod. My Chinese word of the pod today is dongji. And dongji means motivation. Thought that would be very fitting for today.
My Spanish word of the pod is motivar. Now, I'm sure you
wonder
won't
what
guess
that could
what this
be.
is at all.
I wonder what that could be.
Now,
that's
I
the
didn't think
verb,
you would
though,
choose
right?
motivate.
That's the verb, though, right?
It's to motivate. It's the infinitive.
To motivate, yeah.
So if I were to say I motivate, well, how would you say I motivate myself? Like me motivo?
No sé.
Okay, all right.
No sé, señor.
I'm just gonna edit that out. That never happened.
Not gonna teach our listeners the wrong Spanish. All right, well now it's time for a couple jokes. I have 2 originals for you today, Jared.
Slipping on gator
originals
piss.
for you. Here we go. How can a television prove that someone is lazy?
How?
When you can't find the remote, you don't turn on the TV.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like that one's pretty true. Maybe not that funny, but pretty true.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
All right, and
that's a fact of life right there.
right. That's why Jared didn't laugh. That's true. So, Jared,
I'm a hard person to make laugh, to be fair.
That's true. Why shouldn't you be mad at lazy people?
Oh, why not?
Because it's not like they're doing anything.
Okay. See, now, Chad, that's a quality joke.
That is? Okay, well, I appreciate it.
I
appreciate
it. That was good.
Okay.
And listen, I don't care how good or bad a joke is. If it's a Chad original, I already like it more than anything that's not a Chad original. I don't care what it is.
Well, I appreciate it, buddy. That is for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think it's time to give a little quote. And I think the key here with staying motivated and staying inspired with learning a language is I think you have to hold yourself accountable or have someone else like Jared. He's great to hold me accountable for learning more Chinese.
You betcha.
And also, like we mentioned, make it fun, make it interesting, make it relatable to your own life. If you buy a textbook and you find the textbook boring, I'm sorry, but don't use that textbook anymore. There are millions of resources online.
Many fregista.
Exactly. Out the window, defenestrate that book. Love that word. And yeah, just make it fun, make it interesting. Don't be afraid to try some crazy methods and get a little unorthodox. And we hope that you will all stay inspired.
Yes.